Zimela. Zilungile Zimela is the marketing and PR manager of the Funza Literacy Trust, an organization dedicated to improving the literacy levels of South Africa's youth by getting young people reading, writing, and learning. She is also Mail Guardian's 200 Young South Africans. Zimela was a founding member of the Invoked Debating Consortium, the first debating society at Walter Sisulu University's East London campus. The team went on to win a number of championships, including the Provincial Debating Championships, and after pushing for isiXhosa to be a category language, she went on to coach the first team to ever win in the category. She's joining me on the line right now to share her story. Zilungile, good day and thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So, first of all, tell us a bit about yourself. I know people always get asked this question, and many times they don't know where to start. Tell us about yourself. Who is Zilungile Zimela? What makes you take? Where are you from? What do you like and dislike, etc.?
Okay. Yeah, that question is always very, I don't know, tricky to answer. But first, I'll answer per your guidance. Zilungile Zimela is originally from the Eastern Cape. I was born in Port St. John, socialized and grew up in Mthatha, which is not too far from Port St. John. And after my high school education, I left and went to where I studied my first qualification. I finished. After that, I went to PhD to Netherlands. After that, I moved to Cape Town, where I worked in the NPO sector. Zilungile Zimela is an activist at heart. I'm a lover of country. I love words. I love social justice, especially for those that are most vulnerable among us, women and children. And I also believe in the art of articulation, articulating yourself, articulating your thoughts, especially in one's mother tongue. Mine happens to be isiXhosa. I'm very passionate about it. I am very much involved in the work that happens on the ground and behind the scenes to ensure that African literature is in bookshelves and that young people get to understand their home language being isiXhosa. So my first love is definitely activism and literature.
Mm-hmm. And what inspires you and what drives you to excel?
Oh, what drives me to excel? I think for me, it's the feeling of I never want to say I've arrived, you know, and all of because of the circumstances from which I come from, the background from which I come from. I know what it feels like to come from a situation of lack. I know what it means to come from a situation where you can't really dream because all of these dreams seem unattainable. I know what it feels to be like the forgotten ones because, the system of education where you come from is not up to scratch. The infrastructure is not up to scratch. You know what I mean? I know what it feels like to come from such a space. So that drives me so much. Every morning I wake up and I'm like, I want to do better. I want to inspire young people such as myself to dream far beyond their imagination can even see, far beyond what their imagination can consider. I want to model an example for young people that wherever you come from, if you put your mind to something, if you let your passion guide you, you will definitely win.
Mm-hmm. And you have received many awards and recognition for your work. Congratulations, as well as Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans. Now, which one of these accolades stand out for you the most?
I think they all do in very unique ways. And I suppose the accolade that is not there, which for me was very heartwarming, it was when I won a debating championship, the provincial, for the first time in 2014, I think, in the Eastern Cape. So I was, selected to be part of the Eastern Cape team, and we went and competed and we won. And I happened to also be able to coach the team and so forth. So for me, that was the first accolade that I've ever received in terms of the art of debating and word combat. But I do suppose Maryam Guardian, an institution such as Maryam Guardian, mentioned me last year as part of the top 200 young South Africans in South Africa under the category of education. A sector that I work very closely with, a sector that I work every day. So I was really moved. I was wow. I was really chuffed. I remember when it happened, people around me knew first before I did. So my
Mm-hmm.
phone was going crazy before I could even see that, oh, I'm on the mailing garden list. I think for me that is it was very heartwarming
Mm-hmm.
to be mentioned there. But all of the accolades that we received thus far in recognition of my work have been really heartwarming, and they have not gone unnoticed.
It is indeed, and then that sort of pushes you to try and succeed even more. After receiving these accolades and recognition, where that you are in the right place, and you just need to keep on pushing for yourself as well as the people, the community that you serve. Now, one thing that you did push for was Xhosa to be a category language when you were coaching, when you coached the first team to win in that category. Now, how was that for you? And did you have any challenges while you were, trying to get isiXhosa as a language in the debating category?
Uh, I actually love that question because it takes me back to the precise moment when this occurred. So
Mm-hmm.
after studying I just want to put it into context because after studying at the Waterford University and not being able to secure employment in my field of study, I went back home to my hometown in Tata and I went to a TVET college called KST TVET College. And that is where the debating society that had a particular category was incepted and founded. So I remember when I went into the college, they had debated before, right? They'd gone for championships and such, and they were debating in English solely. And for me, wherever I go, I want to make Xhosa fashionable. I want to make Xhosa palpable. I want people to understand and know the beauty that exists in the tricks that our tongues possess. So
Mm-hmm.
I remember speaking to the liaison officer of the institution who was dealing very much with our affairs of students. And of course, I was selected to compete, right, for the debating championships and later Toastmasters International, which had started for the first time. And then I said, why don't we have a state course? Why is it that there isn't a state course? And luckily that year, the debating championships are going to be held in Opera House in Port Elizabeth. So it was also a thing for the institution to have a state course and other languages being celebrated. So we wrote to them. They accepted the proposal. They circulated the content to other TVET colleges as well to accept the challenge. I coached my team. We practiced it every day. We asked around about different things. How do you say proposing team? How do you say opposing team? You know what I mean? All of those nuances. How do we say those in East Xhosa? And how do we make it conversational? And we went and we competed, and we had so much fun. And hands down, my team won all of the rounds. The best became East Xhosa, the best team in East Xhosa. So it was really, really heartwarming and wonderful. And I'm happy to learn that, after that happened, we still continue with the East Xhosa as a category option for the provincials in the province.
That's amazing. Wow. And I know Xhosa is one of the languages that foreigners love to learn. It's Xhosa and Zulu. It's because of the clicks. It's such an
Yeah,
interesting, beautiful language. So yeah, yeah, we have to push for our languages in South Africa. I mean, we have 11 official of them, so why not? We should be proud of what we have and what we have to offer as well. Now, talk to us about some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in your journey.
oh gosh, I think the first challenge for me that I experienced was when I came of age, right? Trying
Mm-hmm.
to understand myself and what my voice is going to be in the world, right? And also understanding where I was socialized, how I was socialized, because even though I do come from a rural space, I stayed there for a while. I moved to a urban, or you could say an urban space, sort of. And then after that, I moved to Cape, which is another melting pot altogether. So for me, it
Mm-hmm.
was it was so important for me to own my story and to know my story and to know what the narrative is as it pertains to my story. one would think that because I'm, a woman within the LGBTI community, one would think that that is the first challenge that I face in my life. But surprisingly, that has never been a challenge for me. In all of the spaces that I've been in, that has never been a challenge. I haven't faced the challenge of race, for instance. When I go into a space and I'm made to be aware that I'm black. You know what I mean? You know what the
Mm-hmm.
struggles are in South Africa. It was really an internal battle for me. It was an internal thing to say, who are you? Who are you trying to become? And what is your story? And what sort of consequence should your voice carry? And with that at the back of my mind, I then had to learn which spaces do I want to be found in. Which spaces do I want my voice to be heard? Which spaces do I want to learn in? Right? Do I want to coexist in? And I've always had an insatiable love for people, for love, for words. I mean, yeah. So I found my love there. I found my niche in that space. So I think overcoming an imposter syndrome in those spaces and understanding that I have as much as a right to be in those spaces as any other person does. So those are my challenges. Otherwise,
Mm.
I think in terms of education, the challenge that I faced, I was always an artistic child growing up. I was always very, very, very artistic. I always loved to tell the story, to write the story, to draw, to do this. But the curriculum, is not designed or was not
Mm.
designed to cater for kids such as myself. So I remember, spending, more than the 12 years that we spent in school and navigating through a system that, this does not, it doesn't ring true for me. I don't see myself in the biology. I don't see myself in the natural science. I don't see, like having to navigate that every single day because at the end of the day, you want to pass, you want your name and you still a number to be in that metric newspaper. But in your heart of hearts, that this curriculum is not designed for me. It's alienating me. It doesn't push me to be the person that I see my head to be. So that is one obstacle that is still a challenge for many other people who are still in the schooling system.
I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine regarding the level of education that we have in the different areas in the country. Like when you compare township education, rural education, and suburban education, it's somewhat different to the fact that even if you excel in a rural area, you're not going to get placement in a university as easy as someone coming from
Yeah.
it's quite challenging there, which is it's really unfair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh God. I can't even begin to tell you of, you know, the many disadvantages, the
Mm-hmm.
many hurdles that you have to jump just to be seen. First of all, let's take passenger for instance, I'm from an area where the challenge is running water, first of all. I come from an area where Ubutwana, I don't know how I would put it in Ubutwana, but the whole concept of a young girl child being forced into marriage is still a thing. It's still occurring. I come from a community or a place where during the pandemic, students who didn't even have smartphones were expected to learn using, WhatsApp, using Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
whereas digital literacy, there was never any sort of digital literacy, both for the learners and for the teachers. So none of them were prepared really. So again, it speaks to the many divides that exist in our country. Which is why I always say the forgotten ones. It's such a problem having to. I remember during the higher grade and the standard grade era, right? You do all of these subjects on the higher grade because it brings a certain kind of pride to your family, but you'll be drowning in those subjects. And those subjects were not even catered for you to thrive in life. They were preparing you to be an employee as opposed to be your own employer or carrying on a trade. There are different technical colleges, for instance, in the Eastern Cape that have been closed, right? Which offered skill, which offered artisanry, which offered skills that were tangible that would help you to thrive and be in business and so forth and to employ yourself, right? And for such a province that has a lot of high unemployment levels, you'd expect that they wouldn't close such institutions of learning. So there's many problems. I mean, even with recreational stuff and extracurricular activities, because after being in Port St. John's, I did study in private schools and sports. So I did see the stark divide and the many differences. In private school, you have a chance for, playing hockey and all of that stuff. In the
Mm-hmm.
there's not even a tennis court, so how do you expect to play hockey? There's no swimming pools in the schools, right? Even if you play, let's say you play soccer as an extracurricular activity, even to get the kids right on the soccer pitch is also a challenge. The
Mm-hmm.
are not looked after properly. So there's so many differences, but people as it may, there's so much beauty also in the culture and the people that come from those places. Their spirit, right? That hustling spirit, that defiant spirit, that hopeful spirit. There's something very beautiful that exists in the rural spaces that you can't find anywhere else, in my opinion.
Exactly. You'll never find it anywhere else because I mean it's specially for the rural areas only. All right, Zilungile, we're going to take a quick break and we will continue thereafter. So please stay on the line.
Ashraful Aid guarantees your zakah payments will be allocated strictly according to Sharia. Our team of ulama have identified people who zakah can be given to, and we ensure that funds and goods are distributed in the right hands. Our zakah projects cover education, food, security, orphan support, medical supplies, and refugee assistance. Your zakah can help needy families in South Africa, Syria, Yemen, Palestine, and Afghanistan. Ashraful Aid is an international humanitarian agency based in Johannesburg, sustaining the needs of communities in 15 countries affected by poverty, disaster, famine, and war. Visit ashrafulaid.org for latest updates and to donate online.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
As Palestine faces unrest, Africa Muslims Agency teams are on the ground providing emergency food to families. Donate 1,500 Rand or any amount to help the people of Palestine and imagine the difference you can make. Call AMA now on 011 834 8685 or donate online at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, 35 years of empowering, educating, and inspiring.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they ever get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamities. For child-headed households in Bloemendal in the Eastern Cape, the daily diet consists of white bread and a carton of cheap juice or sugar water, known locally as the poppy water diet. Make a difference to that one child or family. The Al-Fida Foundation has over the past 13 years worked on the ground and gathered the largest database in the Eastern Cape region of Muslim zakah recipients. Phone our offices at 041 484 1288 or visit our website at www.alfida.co.za. The Al-Fida Foundation, your social investment partner in the Eastern Cape.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Maryam Mkwanda. It is 12:21 on this Tuesday, the 26th of April 2022. All right, our hit list for today is Zilungile Zimela, who is one of Mail and Guardian's top 200 young South Africans. She's also the marketing and PR manager of the Funza Literacy Trust. an organization dedicated to improving the literacy levels of South Africa's youth by getting young people reading, writing, and learning. Zilungile, thank you for staying on the lineup. Before the break, we were talking about the challenges that or rather the levels of literacy and education in rural areas, and how difficult and challenging it is, how much harder kids from rural areas have to work just to get to the top or get to where they need to be in life. Now, talking about that, what more needs to be done, and what can a government do to improve the literacy and numeracy skills or levels in the country?
Thank you so much, Maryam. Just before I attend to that question, I just wanted to make a correction that I've since left the role at FUNSA as of December last year, and now I am the director of my own entrepreneurial pursuit at Consortium Media.
All right.
Just to respond to your question, oh God, in terms of what more needs to be done, I think the NGO sector has nailed it. Absolutely, the NGO sector has nailed it in terms of addressing the problems for what they are, and not necessarily making money the objective. The NGO sector works very much on the ground, is very involved and hands-on, and most times does the work that our government is supposed to be doing. So I think a strong partnership between the Department of Education, the Department of Higher Education, and the NPO sector needs to take place. Teachers in the classrooms in rural spaces have so much workload. I mean, all teachers in general. There's a lot of workload, right? The pandemic has hit them by storm. They themselves are also parents, but at the same time, they have to be teachers. There's a lot of training that needs to be done. The infrastructure in rural spaces needs to be beefed up. I mean, I think you've seen in the news over the years the kind of infrastructure in some rural spaces in the East, because this is not all rural spaces, of course. So the level of that. And I think you find that sometimes in one grade where learners are supposed to be a certain age, you find that in that grade they're much older. And because of that, they start dropping out of school. So they need to also work on the curriculum and the timing of the curriculum itself to ensure that at the time when learners get into grade 1, you still see those learners in grade 12. So then there's a lot of work that needs to happen in between. And this also speaks to extracurricular activities and having a curriculum that is conducive enough to be relevant to the different kinds of learners that you see in the classroom. Not everyone is meant to be an academic. Not everyone is meant to be an artist. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. We're all different, and we make sense of the world very differently. We're gifted in many ways. I mean, I remember in one of the schools that I went to, it was in the township when I was growing up, and there was a huge spirit of entrepreneurship in the school. How do I see this? There were many learners who were either selling seeds, they were selling chips and stuff of the sort. So from a very young age, my age mates understood, myself included, understood money and understood the concept of carrying on a trade, right? But as you up the ladder, right, you don't really get subjects, but pay homage to your entrepreneurial flair. So there's a lot that needs to be done. For instance, like students are really good with sport. Sometimes they're not good with academics. So having people who can spot that sort of talent, to nurture it, and provide resources for those children to thrive, really. So I think the main thing really would be a partnership, a stronger partnership between government and the NPO sector. I mean, I know that government is involved in one way or the other in terms of funding and training, but lots needs to be done. Our government needs to understand from the mouthpieces, they need to understand from the students what the problems are. They need to understand from the teachers, from the community members, what the challenges are, so that they can be in a position to intervene, because there's different fields in it's not just education. So they can be able to fix the water and sanitation issue, for instance, the roads and infrastructure problem, for instance, the skills and training problem, the telecom problem as well, because kind of in terms of rural areas, you find that maybe there's one house there in the top of a mountain or a hill, and the neighbor is all the way down there by the river. Do you know what I mean? So connectivity is a problem, but I don't think it's a problem that can't be fixed. We have a lot of skilled people in the country who can advise on the kind of infrastructure that is needed to sort that kind of problem out, you know.
Hmm. And also, one thing we must not forget is that there are kids with learning disorders out there. So if we do not pay attention to that as well, we're probably just going to think like this child is playful or this child doesn't listen, etc., etc. We don't have much time with us, Zilungile. So quickly, what advice would you like to give to our audience, to our listeners?
I think I'd like to speak to young people in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say to them, no matter how doom and gloom it looks, do not stop dreaming. I usually say, that means the dream knows the way. Whichever circumstances you come from, you are able to achieve, you are able to become the person that you'd like to be, right? So don't look around your immediate circumstances, look ahead, work hard, and passion always follows money. So whatever you're passionate about, the money will follow you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Thank you so much for your time, Zilungile, and have a wonderful day and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Sensho is an ethically based asset manager that is focused on delivering superior risk adjusted returns for their clients, regardless of market conditions. For more info on their Sharia investment products, visit their website www.sensho-capital.com and start saving towards your investment goals today. Sensho Capital Management. Invest for good. Sensho Capital Management is an authorized financial services provider.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.